Hi everyone, it's Kim. Thanks for joining me. Well, it's officially August. It's still very hot, but I decided to extend my Christmas and July playtime using Simon Hurley's North Pole Friends from Spellbinders. And there's a collection of four of the dies. I want to show you all of the dies because they're great to interchange and mix and match. So I'll just give you a quick look and then we're going to get started with some cards. We have the Clauses, so Santa and Mrs. Claus. We've got the Polar Bear Pals, so we got three polar bears. Santa's elves, two very detailed little elves, and then North Pole sentiments with two snowmen and a number of sentiments. And I'm going to start with this one because I think on every single card I'm going to share, I have used one of these sentiments in some fashion, whether or not it was on the pole. So let's start with North Pole sentiments. Super simple card to put together. One thing when I'm making my holiday cards, I keep in mind that I need more than one, so maybe I can't put quite as much detail in them as I normally would. And I also think about how long these are going to hang around. Do they go in the round file after the holidays? So that's another thing I bear in mind before I start putting hours and hours into each card. So the snowman, he's cute, simple to make. I've got the pole and the sentiment. With the snowman, really, I'd use pretty much any one of these sentiments. Also perfect just for a winter holiday or a holiday other than Christmas. We could use that if we just need that winter feel to it. So he's super simple to make. Love those sentiments. And that pole is a great way to attach that sentiment for a little different look. So then I'm going to keep North Pole sentiments here kind of to the side and pull out the polar bears because I had fun with them. And I also tried to kind of maybe use some colors that are not the traditional red and green on some of these cards. So I've got my little polar bear here. I'm going to guess, this is maybe mom, dad, and baby, but, this could be mom too. I made her in pink. She's got that little necklace of lights around her neck. And I used a sentiment, and we'll talk about kind of some things we can do with that. And then I did go back. I wanted a tree for her. So I pulled out the Christmas rocking chair because I had this little tree. And basically, more than anything, because it has this little string of lights in this set as well to attach to the tree. So then that would kind of match my polar bear's lighted necklace, light bulb necklace. One other little minor thing, the ear on the polar bear is hanging out here, and I really didn't want to use this flower, so I just trimmed that ear off, and I thought, well, I'll just let her ear stick out on the hat. So, you can do what you want there. Let's talk about the little sentiments here. So when we look at these, you can see that the sentiment is centered in one of the banners. And that's great, but I thought I didn't have that much room on this, and I wanted the sentiment to be as close to the edge as possible. But as you can see, like on Happy Holidays here, there's kind of a leading edge that's just blank before it hits the die cut area. And then on the flags, there's just kind of a little edge there too that you can't really scoot anything over. And this is maybe say 3/8, a half an inch that I really did not want to have in the front here. I wanted this sentiment scooted to the edge as much as possible. So I'm going to show you a couple others that make it a little clearer. So I've got North Pole scooched all the way over to this end, and same thing with Toy Shop. So you can mix and match. On this one, I just cut out the banner with no sentiment in it. Then I took that banner piece and laid down the Happy Holidays sentiment die, and then that way I could scoosh that over as much as I wanted to the end. So if I don't want a half inch of blank space before my words start, I can just cut that banner out, then lay down whatever words I want to use and scoosh that over as much as possible. And if I want to use one of these smaller ones, North Pole, Let It Snow, or Toy Shop, in one of these bigger ones, I did that as well. And I think in these, I could just lay them in and cut everything at once, lay this sentiment die into one of these bigger banners. And then what I thought with this, I could put these on the pole and then put some little toy here or something, a snowflake or something here on the edge if I wanted to dress those up a little bit. So play around with the sentiments. We can do more than just stick them in the middle of our banner and die cut them out if we need to move things around a little bit. So there is the big polar bear. And then let me find my little polar bears. So this is probably more mom and baby, but they're so cute. And again, trying to use a few different colors than the traditional red and green. This time I just used the banner, Let It Snow. I didn't put it on the pole. So you can use those separately on their own. And this time the bears are just sitting on it. So love these little bears. You could use the 3 of them together and mix them up too with the other characters in this collection. Okay, let's look at Santa and Mrs. Claus. These guys have some varying pieces, so we can have a couple different looks with them. This one, Mrs. Claus has made some cookies, is ringing the bell for Santa to come and get one while he's reviewing his who's good and who's bad list there. I did use pretty much traditional colors on this, but you could have fun and change that up as well. And then there's also a Santa's bag there, which we'll take a look at in a minute. And Santa can be with or without glasses. And then same with Mrs. Claus. I used the glasses on both. This time, there again's Happy Holidays from the sentiment, North Pole sentiments, without using the flagpole. Now, one thing I want to share that Spellbinders has that I really like, sometimes we've got so many little pieces, it takes a while to figure out, okay, what's what. And generally, I can figure it out sooner or later, but sometimes it's nice to have a little cheat sheet. And you can get on Spellbinders website and like click on, if you want the cheat sheet for the clauses, you can click on the icon like you're going to purchase it. And then down at the very bottom, there's a bunch of different samples and views that you can click through. And one of the views now is this detailed look of all the pieces for the clauses. And when I don't get this for every single die set, but some of them that have a lot of pieces, I do like to print it off and put it in a little sheet protector, and then I stick this in a notebook so I have it, because it does help to kind of go through instead of trying to guess and study it so much, what's what with all the little different pieces. And again, sooner or later you figure it out, but sometimes it helps to have something give you a little hint. For instance, more and more these little rectangle pieces here are for black behind the eyes. And if you didn't know that, you might be looking at those for a while, trying to figure out where in the world do those go. So I like to have this handy, and I can use it then when I'm putting these together. And then, if I put it up and don't play with it for a while, it's a great reference sheet. You can also use Santa and Mrs. Claus separately. They don't have to be together. So here's Santa, maybe more traditional Santa with his toy pack. And then this time I did use the pole with the sentiment Santa's workshop. Again, this is a pretty simple one to do. There's several pieces obviously with Santa, but once you get cutting them out and getting them put together, it goes fairly quickly. And then I also can use Mrs. Claus on her own. And definitely I could change up the colors of her dress. I just use the Happy Holidays for her. I love the cookies, and I'm thinking, there's other uses for those cookies maybe that we might need. And if I didn't want to make her look like Mrs. Claus, I could simply change the color of her dress, omit the holly there, and maybe it would look more like Grandma baking some delicious cookies. So this character could be used in different ways other than just Mrs. Claus. And then the last die set in this collection is Santa's Elves. And out of all of them, this has the most little pieces. So I made 8 elves, and I made 4 in one color and then 4 using different colors. This is definitely one where maybe this cheat sheet would come in handy. It might save you a little bit of time trying to figure out all the little pieces. And while we're talking about cheat sheets, I just want to share, last week we looked at Annie Williams' Country Christmas die. So here's the rocking chair, again, the cheat sheet for that. And then for the horse and the wagon as well. Because there were some little ones here that went to the wagon that, had I seen this first, that would have helped me figure those pieces out a little bit faster. But just know they're out there on the Spellbinders website. But back to our Santa's elves. So yeah, you can see all these little pieces here. Look at the die. And not to scare you off, but if I were to make a card or use the elves on my cards, if I made 8 elves, I would be making 8 separate cards. I would not be putting 4 elves together unless it was a very, very special person that would have this out on year-round display, because it's a lot of work. I do like the detail, and one thing I want to share is with this mouth with the elf. So there is a black piece behind and then the tongue, and that's 2 separate pieces. So let me find that on here. Okay, so here we've got the larger piece is like the shadow for the mouth, the tongue, and then we have the nose and the 2 eyes. So I just cut out that piece with this peach color, since that was my face, colored the cheeks, and then colored the back of the, I guess, the throat piece and the tongue piece. And then I thought, why am I doing that? Because then I'm having to glue them together. And I just finally decided to cut out the bigger piece, color in the tongue piece with a marker, and then color the back of it black. So I'm not having to glue those pieces together. Again, if I was making a bunch of these, that's a really tedious little piece. Neat that you can do that, but if you want to save some time, just cut out the big piece and color in the tongue and then color around it in black. So after these 2, that's what I decided I was going to do. The other thing that I like to show you on this one is position the clothes and the head a little differently. So these 2 legs, even though they look like they're in different positions, this is the same die piece for both of them. So you have 2 leg positions. One that's basically standing straight up and down, and then this other one with the knees, that the one knee that is bent. So if I just position my body a little differently on top of those legs, then my legs look like they're in different positions. I did that a little bit here, not quite as obvious. They're still standing straight, but you can kind of see the dresses are a little different. And then the heads, the neck pretty much goes straight up and down. You could turn it. There's a little embossed line there, but I did try to turn the heads a little bit as well. I could probably have done that even more. But a couple different styles of hats, and then candy canes and like a lollipop. Then there's the toy shop. I used the pole in a different manner. I just put the cap on both ends and used it more like a bar across maybe the room for the toy shop. So this one has a lot of pieces, but you can move them around to get a little different look for them. So this time I just went down to 2 of them and just had fun playing with the different hairstyles or the different colors for the hair. And this time you can see I just left the mouth black. I didn't put a tongue in there. So, just play around with that. If you don't want a tongue in every single one, and maybe you want a different color, maybe you want just a lighter or a pink shade for the mouth. Just whatever you want to do. But this time I just used 2 of them. They can hold their hands, the sentiment with the pole. And then finally, you can easily mix and match these guys, and I should have done probably more of that. This time I used the elf with the snowman. but they all go together. I mean, the elf could be with Santa, with Mrs. Claus. I mean, with the polar bear, the snowman and the polar bear would work together really well. So just combining them, this time the little elf is supposed to be building the snowman. He's got his last arm there to stick in the snow. And then I changed out his hat. The elf shared one of his hat styles with the snowman. And then again, the pole and the Santa's workshop. And hopefully a little less traditional colors with this one. So I loved playing with these. You know, the heat is continuing. There just seems to be relentless right now. So who knows, but what I will continue to play with these guys just to try to stay cool. But hopefully that gives you some more ideas if you are starting your holiday cards, or at least starting to think about your holiday cards. Maybe this will give you some ideas on a new collection from Simon Hurley and Spellbinders. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again in a future video.